What if I could take your social skills from zero to outstanding and transform you into an effortless socializer? Not in a theoretical, would be nice but it's never going to happen kind of way, but a real world. How am I suddenly doing this kind of way? How high could you push your self-confidence if you had all areas access to your mind during any interaction? Be able to draw from multiple reservoirs of abundant conversation game within, and turn your mind into a free-flowing network of material capable of delivering conversation from mind to mouth at the precise moment you needed it. Your mind is a small universe, dense with neural synaptic pathways, building its own internal map of the world through the prism of your experiences. The problem is, you don't know where your brain is storing any of these experiences, so you're constantly at its mercy for what, if anything, it chooses to feed back to you. And when it chooses to feed back, this partnership between your brain and your working memory is so fragile, unreliable and error-prone, yet it's what's determining the social and financial status of your entire life. But what if you could build a conversational empire in your mind and use it to rule your world? Because make no mistake, your ability to communicate well with others will be the biggest asset you can have in this life. And this will be possible for you no matter what your starting point is. What you're going to discover in the space of this one single training session is that you can take this partnership between your mind and mouth and make it strong, nimble, fast and reliable. The process of transformation for achieving this has already been developed, and it's called the Velocitalk Conversation System. And in this very unique training, I'm going to show you how anyone, even the most shyly bound up person, can, with incredible ease and in such a short space of time, use Velocitalk even after years and decades of mind-blanking, thought flow gridlock, to connect with their conversation game, or build it if need be. Now, what does this mean in reality? It means your mind working with you as your co-pilot instead of against you, be it on a nervy first date, a nail-biting job interview, with work colleagues, with potential in-laws interrogating your entire future prospects, mixing at network events or meet-up groups, crashing weddings, or just chilling with friends. It means having all areas access to your mind and being able to draw from your entire catalogue of life experiences and knowledge to feed your end of the conversation. It means being able to access all your thoughts, opinions, experiences and topics of interest, jokes, quotes, one-liners, anything you've ever learnt and found interesting, and keep them visible in your mind, ready for use in conversations. It means releasing the dam and filling up the vessel of your mind with all these building blocks of conversation and connection, ready for instant use at any time. Not hours after a conversation is over, when your brain is belatedly delivering you a morsel of chit-chat that you could have used, like a cat slinking in with a bird in its mouth and a sheepish look on its face. If you have spent too long persuaded by your inner voice to sit back and play minor character roles in your life, work and social settings, bowing to the will of others as they dictate the pace and direction of conversations that you're in, what you talk about, who gets heard, who gets talked over, what you do, who you do it for, and for whose benefit. There comes a time in everyone's life where you make that decision, consciously or subconsciously, that this is either going to be the status quo for you, always submitting to the will of others and taking the hits to your self-esteem. Or you feel a fierce determination rising up, demanding that you rip up that status quo and start mining the massive potential of your mind until you emerge as a human force that can represent yourself in work and social settings the way you always wished you could. Now, most people won't do this because they simply don't know how to start, or that they're genuinely capable of doing it. If that's you, and you're sitting on this fierce determination, then Velocitalk is the game changer that you're looking for. And don't think for one single second that you can't make this transformation because your mind is slow, or it blanks out under stress. You're not naturally assertive. People don't listen to you. You're boring. You have no life experiences to make you interesting. You're shy. You're socially anxious. You're an introvert and you don't want to be the center of attention. You've read lots of personal development books and social skills books, and none of it really makes much of a difference. So why would this? In a short while, I'm going to tell you in one sentence exactly why nothing is working for you and why, without exception, Velocitalk will. And it will do so easily, like swimming with the tide for the first time instead of against it. First in this training, we're going to peel back the night and reveal the social skills quadrant. Discovering where you currently sit on this quadrant it feels uncomfortable at first if you're on the wrong side, but only through transparency of discovering what attributes define each of the 4 quadrants will you be able to determine where you currently sit within the quadrant. To identify what's missing for you and what you need to focus on in order to advance to the next quarter, or from the wrong side of the quadrant where stagnancy and resistance lies, and to the right side where prosperity and flow lies. Remember, energy flows where attention goes, okay? So next we'll cover the 5 levels of conversation and how to use them to your social advantage. When you hold these 5 levels up to the light of scrutiny, you'll be able to see exactly where you've been going right and wrong, why people look at you strangely, and why some want to avoid second conversations with you. It will reveal the imbalance in your conversation style and how to revise and balance your style so you can pace and lead a conversation and meet others at their level so that connecting with them becomes natural. Then we'll cover the conversation craft cards and how to use them as a fun conversation lubricant in company, or use them in solo mode to train yourself in using the 5 levels of conversation like a master magician. Because these are no ordinary conversation cards, I'll reveal to you how they work. Then, as a gift for accompanying me on this training, you'll get your very own pack for free. No tricks, just pure conversational genius. So make sure you don't miss the code that I'll reveal at some point in this training for you to use to get your own free pack. Don't worry, I'm not going to let you miss it. I hope you're excited for the mouth-watering prospect of leapfrogging the social skills of everyone you know, including that one person who likes to tell you that you don't say much. As you begin the journey to becoming a Velocitalk master, grab a pen and paper and prepare to make notes if you like, because we're going to be packing a lot in and we're going to be leaving the fluff out. Let me begin with a quick introduction to myself. So, hi, I'm Richard Gray, and I used to be that quietest person in any room. I would try and make myself invisible so people wouldn't notice me and try to involve me in the conversation, because I knew I had nothing interesting to contribute. And even if I did, I either didn't have the confidence to insert myself into the conversational flow, or my mind would go blank, abandoning me to rely on the other person or people in a group to make all the conversation. I was in denial about being shy or socially anxious or even an introvert, and would justify my quietness to myself by thinking small talk was boring, it was tedious, and a waste of time. My lowest point came when, as a best man at a wedding, I forgot most of my speech. That moment standing in front of a crowd, cheeks burning, hands shaking, no words in my head, felt every bit as excruciating as you could imagine, and then some. But as life often seems to exert its checks and balances, around about the same time, I found salvation in the form of a memory training distance learning course. That was 30 years ago now, and I've been developing a social skills and memory techniques fusion method ever since. Today I call it Velocitalk because of the sheer speed it enables you to access your mind and choose or create conversational material just when you need it. Imagine that, having your mind lit up and firing on all cylinders, instead of a dark, seedy place where nothing can be found. At least, not when you want it. What I've just described was the tip of the iceberg that was me 30 years ago, sitting firmly at top left on the social skills quadrant. Now let's find out where you sit. The social skills quadrant represents the 4 stages of social intelligence and conversational ability, beginning with the first quarter defined by characteristics such as having a fundamental lack of social skills and ability to connect with others, a mind prone to blanking out in the company of others, like a deer in the headlights, being disinterested in what others are saying, finding their small talk and gossip boring, being quiet and making yourself small in every way possible to avoid attention, having low self-esteem and a feeling that you've got nothing to contribute, a feeling you don't belong like imposter syndrome, an inability to maintain eye contact, being inner conflicted, not knowing or liking yourself. Your ratio of conversation here will be as little as 2% you, 98% them. Quarter 2. This has all the concerns and traits of position 1, apart from one main difference: self-awareness. In this space, you still don't know how to talk or connect with people, but you're taking ownership of it. It's still frustrating when people interrupt and talk over you, but you realize it's their lack of social intelligence and your lack of presence that's enabling this. You now realize that the negatives you so readily perceive in others are so obvious because these traits are present in yourself. You realize those that know you may not look forward to your company because the burden of conversation is going to be on them. You realize that you need to be genuinely interested in other people's lives in order for them to reciprocate. Your ratio of conversation here is going to be about 5–10% you, 90–95% them. Quarter 3. In this space, you're stronger than your shyness or anxiety impulses and can push through them to engage with others. Your conversation game is more engaged, but still restrained like a dripping tap. Your conversation consists more of initiators, prompts, questions, and a reliance on the other person to run with them. You're consciously trying to make conversation, which keeps you trapped in your head and less present with the other person. Your ratio of conversation here is about 10–20% you, 80–90% them. However, this ratio can be reversed for certain groups of people who have managed to bypass quarter 2 on their way here. Quarter 4, in this space, your active listening is more developed, enabling you to shift your focus from your inner thoughts to what the other person is saying. Barriers to conversation building are removed because you can base your replies on the information that they're sharing with you. You're competent at pacing and leading in order to be on the same wavelength as the other person, making connecting more natural. Anxiety over awkward silences is diminished as you're no longer relying solely on your own thoughts for your next contribution. In the top half of this quarter, you've become self-congruent, and approval of the other person has no real bearing anymore on how you're interacting. You like yourself. You're secure in your thoughts, opinions, and beliefs, and will happily share them to enrich the conversation. Without conscious effort, your mind can now free flow, enabling you to think faster and access conversational material in a way that most people can't. Through a mastery over your own social skills, your presence, charisma, and confidence radiate, drawing people to you. Your ratio of conversation here is about 40% you, 60% them, and that's by design. Mastering Velocitalk will accelerate you into the top half of the 4th quarter, but you won't be ready for that until you're at least at quarter 2. The good news is, if you've identified mostly with the characteristics of the 1st quarter, and you're still with me, still watching, determination swelling within you, congratulations. You're now shifting into the 2nd quarter. How are you doing so far? Have you definitively identified with the characteristics of one of the 4 quarters? Or are you perhaps wavering between 2 of them? If so, that just means that you're in between and transitioning already. The very fact that different characteristics and their positioning within the quadrants has been raised into your conscious awareness right now will be enough for most of you to fully transition from one quarter to the next. While transitioning from quarter 3 to quarter 4 and moving to the top of quarter 4 will take some more specialized social skills training. More about that shortly. Right now, I want to move you straight on to the 5 levels of conversation. And by the way, if your primary interest in this training was piqued by an interest for learning the conversation craft cards here, then pay extra close attention to these 5 levels because the principles of conversation craft have been built on them. Also, if you'd do me a quick favor and just comment what you're most interested in learning about in this training, please comment with a 1 for the social skills quadrant, a 2 for the 5 levels of conversation, a 3 for the conversation craft cards here, or indeed a 4 for Velocitalk itself. Thanks. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the 5 levels. If you've ever found yourself out of step with others, you would identify yourself as being an oversharer or an undersharer, guarding against revealing anything about yourself. Or if you just more generally find it difficult to connect with people, then let me begin by sharing one of the most stark examples of conversational mismatching that I ever came across from a celebrity dating reality show. Keep this in mind as we go through the 5 levels. The format of this show was that each celebrity that appeared on it would go on dates to a restaurant with non-celebrities, on camera of course, until a connection and a good match was made. The celebrity of my example just couldn't understand why none of his dates ever requested a second date from him, even when the consistent feedback was that he was a good listener and always encouraged his dates to speak about themselves. However, he never shared anything about himself, which made him appear shallow. Okay, let's start at level 1, the surface level, the superficial, the shallow level. You'll usually play at this level during the first minute or so of meeting someone. Conversation here consists of closed questions and questions based on what's happening in your immediate environment. Commenting on the weather may be the most common cliched example of this. Here's a few more. You're at a networking event where someone's given a presentation. You approach another attendee to make conversation, and your opening comment is about the speaker, or you ask if they're enjoying the presentation. You're on a first date in a restaurant. Your surface level opening comment is about the restaurant, the food, or indeed, as it should be, on how good your date is looking. These openers are based on what's present in your environment that you're in and the reason that you're both there. Hence the surface level. As a rule of thumb, never spend more than a minute or 2 questions at this level before moving up to the next. Or, like our celebrity, the other person will begin to think that you're shallow. Level 2, the information level. This is where we start learning about each other, what we do for a living, what we're studying if we're a student, our hobbies and interests, such as music or sport or playing conversation cards, our likes and dislikes, our experiences. This is the level where you'll find any shared interests and make your initial connections. After all, if you discover that you both have a passion for mountain climbing or football or playing the guitar, then you'll always have something new to talk about each time you meet. Level 2 provides a natural progression from level 1. For example, at our networking event, you follow up your surface level question about the presentation by asking which part of the presentation that they found most interesting or insightful. Now you're going to get a level 2 informational response. On a restaurant first date, you can take the conversation from level 1, where do you come from, to level 2, what they like about where they come from. Level 3, the opinions level. Sharing thoughts, opinions, beliefs, etc. comes after level 2 because we need that buffer of a safer level where we can get the measure of someone and perhaps build some rapport, learn some shared interests and develop some trust before determining if it's safe to start putting our opinions out there. Which, well, let's face it, they always have the potential to create discord or disagreement. It should be said, though, that unless you're overly opinionated, or your opinions are particularly strong or extreme, or you express them in a way that's very assertive and makes the other person feel wary of disagreeing with you, then level 3 should be a fun level to interact and connect on. This statement goes double when you've achieved quarter 4 status on the social skills quadrant, because you're more secure in yourself and your opinions. For example, suppose you hold the opinion that the best way to crack an egg is on a flat surface, as opposed to the lip of a bowl. How did you arrive at this opinion? Was it A, you heard a random person on TikTok say so? Was it B, you heard Gordon Ramsay say so in one of his videos? Or was it C, Gordon Ramsay said so, and because you did a smidge of research and it revealed there was less chance of breaking the yolk and less chance of bacteria and eggshell bits mixing in with the egg? Now, each of these options give a very different feel to the same opinion and your confidence in sharing it, right? Level 4, the feelings and emotions level. Expressing emotions and how you feel about situations, people, etc., requires you to make yourself vulnerable to the other person. So again, the buffer of the previous levels is important for many people to feel safe enough and trusting enough for the other person to go there. Level 5 is the relationship level. Now, you've probably heard it said that best friends tell each other everything. Perhaps this is what truly defines these 5 levels then. Each one requires a little bit more trust and familiarity to go there. How much depends on the individual though. Level 5 requires the highest level of trust in another person, that you can tell them anything about yourself, whether they are a best friend or a spouse. What these levels highlight is the importance of being on the same level or wavelength as the other person that you're talking to if you want to connect with them. Remember how the exact opposite was happening in the celebrity dating example? After this training, replay some previous conversations of your own, those that went well and those that felt awkward. In the awkward ones, you'll most likely notice that you're on different levels. But when talking or passing time with a friend, conversation flows on the same level. If you previously identified yourself on the left side of the social skills quadrant, the 5 levels of conversation will be an invaluable bridge for advancing over to the right. Now, let's talk about using this bridge with the conversation craft cards. Remember all those social skills books, all those personal development books that promised so much, made you feel like you could become a social superstar if only you would put into practice their 50 or so little tips, tricks and strategies. But as soon as you finished the book and the ride was over, almost immediately you began forgetting about it like a bad made-for-TV movie. The problem you've no doubt noticed, and that those books never really want to talk about, is that when you do get into a conversation, whatever neurological responses you were experiencing before you read that book, be it shyness, anxiety, blushing, your mind going blank, you'll still experience them after the book. And in the heat of the moment, that book will be the last thing on your mind. It's a seemingly impossible catch-22 situation that causes so many people to give up and resign themselves to a poorer life experience, because low self-esteem, low confidence, misfiring social skills prevent them from getting anywhere near quarter 4 in the quadrant, where everything begins to change and you begin to represent yourself the way you always wished you could. When developing the Velocitalk conversation system, solving this catch-22 mind-blanking issue was one of my main drivers because I suffered from it so much. Coming up shortly, I'll tell you how Velocitalk resolved this problem with such incredible results that everyone who tried it was shocked. The conversation craft cards that I'm going to introduce you to now became one of the aids for the experiential part of transitioning into a Velocitalk master. It's a fun, entertaining one that you can use with others or uniquely. And unlike any other conversation cards, you can use them in solo mode and without anyone else even knowing that you're doing it. The objective of the conversation craft cards is to get you so familiar with the 5 levels that they become your playground on autopilot. So you can recognize without thinking about it what level the other person is on and what level you are on. So you can either move up or down the levels to meet them or guide them up and down the levels to bring them to you. For example, you get talking to Sarah at a wedding reception. You ask a surface level question such as, are you on the bride or the groom side? She says the bride. You move her up to the information level with a follow-up question such as, oh, you're on the bride side. How do the two of you know each other? She responds with some information about how they've, let's say, been best friends since school. You decide to move her onto level 3 with something like, what did you think of that naughty joke that the best man made about your friend in his speech? Now, instead of just an opinion, you might just get a level 4 emotional reply, such as you found it offensive. This is where practicing to hone your awareness of the conversation levels would immediately flag in your mind that conversation has now moved up to level 4. Okay, so we've done a pretty good overview of the 5 levels. We've discussed how valuable they can be for helping you regulate your side of the conversation, to recognize when you're under or oversharing. How an awareness of the levels will help us to know what level or wavelength the other person is on, so we can go and meet them there. How being on the same level will fast track making connections, and finally, how we can lead the other person up or down the levels with well-framed questions, which is what the conversation craft cards will train you to do. Let's take a closer look at them now and how you can use them either with others or in that magical solo mode. Okay, so now we're going to get into the conversation craft cards, and at this point I'm going to give you a visual introduction, a visual tour of the conversation craft cards, how it's laid out and what everything you see on the card actually means. And after that, we're going to get into the objectives of conversation craft. So as you see here, these cards have been patiently waiting to meet you. These here are all cellophane wrapped, and you're going to get your very own pack of these cards just for being an attendee on this training. So that's pretty good, I think. This pack here has already been unwrapped. Here's one I did earlier, so to speak. So let's open them up. Can you hear that? These cards are extremely well made, and I think my partners have done an excellent job of the presentation of them as well. Look at that. Gold edged and very attractively designed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through some questions with you. I'm going to show you up close what the card actually looks like and what everything signifies on the card. So let's take one straight off the top here. If you could have a ringside seat to one natural phenomenon, what would it be? Well, that's a very interesting question. I think I would like a ringside seat to a volcano, if it was safe, of course. How amazing would that be? Or maybe the Northern Lights. I've never seen that. Let me bring the card up close to you. Now you see the question itself is in the middle. I hope that's in focus. And around it, you'll see 5 peaks. At the top of each peak, you'll see a number from 1 to 5. And on this particular card, you'll see the number 1 is highlighted. Okay, so what does all that mean? It's very mysterious. Well, actually, it's not. It's very simple, and you've probably already worked it out. The numbers 1 to 5 represent the 5 levels of conversation. And because the number 1 is highlighted here, that means that this question is a surface level 1 question. So when you ask it, you're going to get a closed reply, as in volcano or the Northern Lights. The person you're asking, they may choose to give you more information, but they don't have to. That's why it's called a closed question. An open question, of course, really forces them to give you more information in order to be able to reply to you. So at a glance, any one of these 100 cards and their questions, you can see what level the question actually resides on. So let's take another one. And you see here, this one, it looks like it's got the number 2 highlighted. Now I have to say the majority of these cards will be level 1 because I want you to have the flexibility of and the range of being able to move people up the levels. So I'd say probably 70% or more of these cards will be level 1, then 20% level 2, and then you've got maybe 10% level 3 cards there. So what have we got here? What were you like as a child before you began school? Well, that's actually quite a deep question, isn't it? But it's still an information level 2 question because you have to give information to reply. And you might get some quite interesting replies from that. Okay, let's park that. I don't want to think about that now. Let's go through a few more questions and then we'll get into the objectives. So let's just pick something at random so you know that I'm not setting the deck up. Let's see. Let's pick here. Oh, upside down. So, what is a movie you wish you could have been the star of? I love that kind of question. I love the movies. I always go to see movies, and I'm at an age where I'm always disappointed by them. Not always, but hey, that's just me personally. Let's go with one more. Let's see what have we got here. We've got another information question. Let's see. The number 2 is highlighted. So what have we got here? What is something that made your childhood memorable for the right reasons? Again, I bet that can throw up some interesting responses. I got really into fighting fantasy books when I was around about the age of 10 to 12, and with a friend of mine we started writing our own fighting fantasy books. That was very memorable. And when the first PC computers like the Commodore 64, the Spectrum 48K, these very first PC computers started coming out, it was a very exciting time. Okay, so I think you're getting a good idea of the conversation craft cards and how it works, how at a glance you can see whichever question is what level it resides on, and then how to take it forward. The objective of the conversation craft cards then is to ask the question from the card, obviously, and whatever level it's based on, your goal after the other person has answered is to get them to the next level up in as little as 1 and a maximum of 2 follow-up questions. If you want to turn it into a game, that you can introduce a scoring system to it, such as a point for moving the conversation up the level, a point for, let's say, each minute that you keep the topic alive and well, and 5 bonus points if you make a connection on that question, on that topic. Being able to regularly score 10 points, let's say, from any card will turn you into a conversation craft grandmaster. Now, while that gives the cards a fun element and a level of proficiency to aim for, like a black belt in karate, it's not really about scoring points, It's more about getting more juice out of a single topic than you might normally do. Making conversations with you more engaging, rich, and fun for the other person. Think about it. You're on a first date, let's say, and you ask them where they're from. If you're from different places, let's say, it seems like there might be no common ground for this topic and nowhere to take it. So it fizzles out and you're left looking for the next topic to burn through as an awkward silence develops. This is a very common weak point in people's conversation game. So now you may be wondering, does using these cards in solo mode work? How does it work? Well, simple. You look through the card pack, you find a few questions that really appeal to you. You memorize them. Not too hard if it's just 2 or 3 cards, right? And then the process is exactly the same as before. When the opportunity arrives, ask the question and aim to move the other person and the conversation on to the next level with no more than 2 follow-up questions. Here are 4 guidelines then to keep you on the straight and narrow, whether in a group, a pair, or in solo mode. Don't worry, when you get your own pack of these cards here, there'll be a link to these helpful guidelines. Guideline number 1. Get out of level 1 as soon as possible. Close questions and surface level questions are based on what's in your immediate environment, and they're mostly for initiating conversations or greetings. And remember, what they are also for is testing the waters with a stranger to see if they're open for conversation. If you sense that they're distracted, their body language is closed off, or you're getting perfunctory responses, don't take it personally, but do take the hint and move on. Guideline 2, keep the focus on the other person, meaning that once they've answered your question, your follow-up should be based on whatever they said, not something about yourself. For example, when you ask where someone is from and you're not familiar with that place, it can be tempting to turn the spotlight on yourself and start talking about where you're from, right? Mistake. This is a panic response that occurs when the limits of your social skills keep your thoughts inwardly focused. Now Conversation Craft has your back, so keep your follow-ups focused on the other person, such as, what's it like where you come from? What would you recommend if I went and visited that place? What would you miss most about it if you left? Guideline 3, flesh out your follow-up questions with from a why to a why would they do that? Or what do you think was their motivation for doing that? Etc. This makes the exchange feel less like an interview and more like you're really interested in their opinions. In fact, score yourself another point for doing this. Guideline 4. Conversation craft isn't about interviewing and controlling the other person or scoring points off them. It's about learning to verbally dance with them. Therefore, when you lead them into a different level or they lead you, go with it and be prepared to give some self-disclosure as you're expecting to get from them. Remember our celebrity who refused to leave level 1? So right now, you should have a good sense of your current point on the social skills quadrant and where you would like to be, and an excitement for mastering the conversation levels using your own pack of these cards here. I know if it was me or the younger version of me watching this training, the only thing standing in my way would be me. That's the self-limiting effect of inner conflict, which you find at the opposite end of the quadrant to self-congruence, where you know who you are, what you want, and the full support of your mind to go after it. Inner conflict is suspicious of itself and other people's motives. What's in it for them, it asks. So allow me to put my cards on the table, metaphorically speaking. At the beginning of this training, I promise to, in a single sentence, reveal why everything else that you've done so far, all the books, the blogs that you've read, all the forums and websites that you've visited, all the seminars and the courses that you may have attended, as I have, the videos you've watched, why none of the information from any of these sources has had the effect that you're seeking, the breakthrough you wanted. Your mind still resists and goes blank in conversation, or stuffs it full of anxiety thoughts, the shyness, a lack of confidence, the self-belief, or whatever it is for you is still there. So here it is. You may have heard the phrase, what you resist persists, right? Well, that's because when you generate a fighting energy, a diametrically opposed defense energy naturally occurs. What you push pushes back. What you're pushing against may be a lifetime of shyness, introversion, years of social anxiety, and all the baggage that you've built up during that time. And all you've got on your side to push with are those recycled tips and tricks from the latest book that you're reading. So how can Velocitalk enable you to get through that wall of resistance when all others are failing you? You may have got some hints along the way already, but now it's time to put you fully in the picture. The Velocitalk conversation system is a fusion of social skills, conversation super strategies, and ancient Greek memory techniques, capable of igniting your conversation game and propelling you so fast into the fourth quarter of the social skills quadrant, you may just get a nosebleed. Is it about speed then? No, it's about making the resistance irrelevant. Now, in the world of Star Trek, they have this teleporting technology. A wall, a locked room is no problem for them. They can just teleport into that room. Now, in a very real sense, this is how Velocitalk works too. Right now, your mind is creating resistance in social settings, creating walls and barriers and boxing you in so you have limited conversational maneuvers. Now, just imagine for a moment if you had the ability to teleport around your mind, teleport into rooms and locations that were full of conversational material. With the right setup, a little practice and strengthening of your imagination muscles, it actually becomes a very easy thing to do. The only catch is we have to set these spaces up first, and that's where Velocitalk comes in. It's already done for you. The hard work is done for you, and the best part is when you do start using Velocitalk repeatedly, something magical happens. Your imagination muscles develop much, much faster than physical muscles. And in the process, all the resistance in your mind begins to melt away. Your brain begins to understand what it is you want from it. And that resistance becomes assistance as it unites behind you. So when you ask what's in it for me, I want you to take the program and become an amazing conversationalist with it. Thing is, Velocitalk is such a different approach to anything you've come across before, with results that you can't forget even if you tried, that unless you're very proactive, you may want to know more about it first. So with your permission, what's in it for me is that when I send you your pack of the conversation craft cards, I will take you to level 2 and give you more information at the same time in the form of a few emails. See what I did there? I worked the levels in. The cards are yours free today, regardless of what you do, whether you go forward or not. Now, depending on where you're watching me from, you'll either see a link or a button that you can click on to go to the checkout for your cards. If you're watching a streaming event, you can simply leave a comment, let's say conversation craft, keep it simple, and you'll get a reply or a DM with a link. On the screen now, you'll see the voucher code that you'll need to enter. You'll also get a PDF of the game rules and guidelines of conversation craft, along with a PDF of the social skills quadrant that we covered earlier on. For the rest of this training, and for those that are highly motivated to advance to the top of the social skills quadrant, prepare to get excited as I lift the lid on Velocitalk. This is not about learning some new or recycled tips, tricks or strategies. This is the real deal. A 5-stage process of re-sculpting the inner landscape of your mind so an entire world of conversation game rises to the surface and becomes permanently, visually and instantly accessible. At the core of the Velocitalk conversation system is the principle that the conversation strategies you learn here have been designed to be unforgettable, even under high anxiety. So forget about any and all strategies you may have come across on the web or in books. They are babies compared to the statuesque super strategies of Velocitalk, which have been made 3-dimensional by the fusion of memory techniques. Stage 1 is what I call the multiversal mind canon. Here we begin immediately building out the social architecture of your mind, embedding and populating your first 3 specialist conversation strategies called the 10 topics in your pocket, small talk burn phone, and the pace lead matrix. These strategies take the form of visual structures in your mind, which we load with your conversation game using a special self-congruence process. This approach is so stupefyingly effective because now you're using the primary language of your brain, which thinks in pictures, sounds, and feelings. Take a look out of the window of wherever you are right now. What do you see? Do you see other houses, trees, a road, the ocean? What if you saw piles of words instead that represented descriptions of those things? In order to now understand what was outside your window, your brain would have to reassemble those words and interpret them into a meaningful image. Imagine the processing power, delay and strain this puts your brain under. Yet it's not a million miles away from what's actually happening when you look through the window of your mind for something to contribute during the conversation. You're thinking in words and looking for words. But it gets even worse because you left your brain to store those word piles wherever it wanted. So you've got to wait for it to interpret what you want, because again, words are not the primary language of your brain. Then it has to go searching for a match to what it thinks might be of use to you. And it doesn't care that you imposed a deadline at the end of the other person's sentence for it to get a result for you. What Velocitalk enables you to do in this situation is see the visuals instantly. This, my friend, is why it's called Velocitalk, because of the speed at which you're able to see and connect with your internal conversation game. These strategies are your shortcut to having the same mental capabilities as the top 0.1% of conversationalists, those with a natural gift for thinking fast and on their feet. Stage 2 is the rising star. With the rapid development of great social skills comes charisma and the ability to inspire, enthrall, promote understanding with a well-told story, anecdote or metaphor. To be able to read your environment, the people in it, and how they are processing their side of the conversations. This is very different to mind reading, where we assume that we know what the other person is thinking, based only on how we are thinking ourselves. Having heightened social and emotional intelligence allows us to grow beyond our current thinking, raises our awareness of the people around us, allows us to see further, deeper, and penetrate between the lines, allows us to tune into a higher frequency of the social experience and hear what people are not saying. These are the building blocks of a secure, warm, inviting, charismatic personality that people are attracted to. What you get at this stage is a masterclass in social and emotional intelligence and storytelling skills. Stage 3 is the stars aligning. This stage brings you the next 3 conversation super strategies: conversation face map, Cupid connection, and interview kung fu. These strategies turn you into a high performer with a specialized focus on assisting you in connecting with people, building rapport, trust, confidence, making them feel good, and then associating that feel good factor with you. These are not just conversation super strategies, but human blueprints and the keys to connecting at speed. Stage 4 is the amazing chains. And what do you want to be known as? Thoughtful, funny, or the one who always has an inspirational quote, joke, or anecdote? The number 1 in your career field? At this stage, you're ready to take your personality in any direction you like as we begin to layer in additional neural sequences to your new social mind architecture, such as the stand-up comedian sequence, one-liner sequences, conversation starter sequences. Take your pick at this stage as your mind unlocks fully. Stage 5 is the shooting star. Now you've reached the final stage of the program where we consolidate everything and prepare for your relaunch. But what if you don't have any real friends at this moment in time? Or the values and habits and aspirations of your current friend pool do not represent the person you want to be. Remember, you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Perhaps you're moving to a new area, or you're traveling abroad. Having a personalized, cookie-cutter, black book process for building friend networks from scratch or refreshing your current network is something that every Velocitalk master should have in their arsenal. You'll get captioned video trainings for all 5 stages, along with the self-congruence profile to build as you go, and weekly exercise challenges for experiential reinforcement of each new super strategy. But I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's a program that's very intense over a 10-week of immersive work that will equip you with the firepower to build an amazing social life, develop all the self-esteem, confidence, and assertiveness that you need. Take control of your work and career life. Choose a partner and be a partner of high worth. This can be you, of course, but you don't have to go full throttle to complete in 10 weeks if you have, let's say, big demands on your time. But this process is how you truly overcome the lights of shyness and unleash the full potential of your mind. So momentum is important. Winston Churchill didn't know how right he was when he said that the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. So if you do nothing else today, go and secure your free pack of the Conversation craft cards while I have them in stock, along with the PDFs of what we've covered today. Until we speak again, thank you for your company and enjoy the cards.